Hello, this is special content for the supporters of AA Beyond Belief on Patreon and members of our YouTube channel. And this is something that I want to do on a regular basis to say thank you. Your support is appreciated and needed, and I'm really grateful for what you're doing. Today, we're going to be talking about Tradition 1. Okay, Tradition 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. Sounds pretty good. I have to say, during the years that I've been going to AA meetings, I've attended quite a few meetings at my old home group where we would read the traditions on a fairly regular basis, and then we'd go around the room and talk about them. Generally, they were not the most popular meetings, but through repetition, I kind of got to know what the traditions were all about. I have to say, though, as I read Tradition 1 today, maybe it's because I'm reading it from a different perspective, or maybe I wasn't paying attention all those years. There were a few things that I picked up on that I probably overlooked in the past. I think primarily that would be some of the God stuff. But in essence, I think what Tradition 1 is saying is important for us as individual, for our individual recovery, that there be some unity within Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, the way that Bill Wilson goes about describing that in the 12 and 12, I think is somewhat problematic. And I hate to say that because it sounds a little bit egotistical, like I think I'm smarter and could have written it better than him. No, I think that he was just writing it from the perspective that he had back in, I guess, 1950 or whenever this was being written. I think it was in the early 1950s. But yeah, this is all about the importance of AA being united. And the way I see that is united in service. So in other words, it's I think that the one thing that AA has that we in AA have going for us is our service structure. And that means the districts, the areas, the general service conference, but also the group service structures that exist outside of the service conference, like intergroups and central offices. That the that what individual groups coming together for the greater good of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they have to put aside their individual personal wants and desires for the good of the fellowship. And I've seen this in action, and it works. People really do care about the fellowship, and they are willing to compromise. They are willing to listen to the dissenting voice, and I think that's a real strength of AA. And the same thing with, on the group level, when you're involved with intergroup, you get people from all these different groups coming together for the common purpose of helping the alcoholic. And that's what I think our service structure is all about. It's service to be of help to the alcoholic. So that's how I see this tradition. It's all about unity in that respect. It doesn't mean that we are supposed to conform, that I, as an individual, need to work the program just as everyone else does, that I have to believe and say and do what everyone else does. Not at all. This tradition makes it clear that the individual AA member has complete freedom. But that freedom comes with some responsibility. So, in other words, just because I can do something, I should think about, will my actions impact my group or AA as a whole? And if so, then maybe I should rethink that. So let's just kind of go through the tradition in the 12 and 12. It's not very long, and I think I'll just read through it and stop and comment on it. And I hope that if you're listening to this, that you also add your comments. You can do that through the post on Patreon, or you can do that through the comments in YouTube. And again, this is exclusive content only for you, so nobody else will see it. This is just completely private between us. Yes. Okay. So tradition 1, again, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. The unity of Alcoholics Anonymous is the most cherished quality our society has. Our lives, the lives of all to come, depend squarely upon it. We stay whole or AA dies. Without unity, the heart of AA would cease to beat. Our world arteries would no longer carry the life giving grace of God. His gift to us would be spent aimlessly. Back again in their caves, alcoholics would reproach us and say, what a great thing AA might have been. Well, of course, I don't know what to think about all the God stuff, but yeah, there you go. You know what? I'm not sharing my screen. I wanted to. There you go. There you go. Now you can see it. Now you can see it too. Okay. So yeah, so basically an introduction there saying that, we for the good of the individual, we as AA need to be united. Does this mean, some will anxiously ask, that in AA the individual doesn't count for much? Is he to be dominated by the group and swallowed up in it? We may certainly answer this question with a loud no. We believe there isn't a fellowship on earth which lavishes more devoted care upon its individual members. Surely there is none which more jealously guards the individual's right to think, talk, and act as he wishes. No AA can compel another to do anything. Nobody can be punished or expelled. Our 12 steps to recovery are suggestions. The 12 traditions which guarantee AA's unity contain not a single don't. They repeatedly say, we ought, but never, you must. Goodness. I have certainly known some people who've forgotten that. It seems like so many think that the traditions are here to make someone else conform to what you think is the way that things should be. It's not about conformity. It's not about conformity at all. It's just about, thinking about how your actions will impact AA as a whole, and the importance of being united at some effort, some common effort, benefits us all. So, I think that's, again, I say the great strength of AA is that service structure that we have, that infrastructure we have of service, where we all come together for a greater good. And now without that, if we didn't have that, we might have individual groups, but they wouldn't be as strong as they are now because we wouldn't be interacting with people from other groups. We wouldn't be reaching out to the suffering alcoholic who isn't coming and finding our meetings. We wouldn't be growing as a fellowship, learning different ways to improve on how we are of help to others. And if we didn't do that, maybe AA would die. Maybe our groups wouldn't exist. So in that respect, our sobriety does hinge upon this idea that there should be some sort of unity. To many minds, all this liberty for the individual spells sheer anarchy. Every newcomer, every friend who looks at AA for the first time is greatly puzzled. They see liberty verging on license, yet they recognize at once that AA has an irresistible strength of purpose and action. How, they ask, can such a crowd of anarchists function at all? How can they possibly place their common welfare first? What in heaven's name holds them together? Yeah, I've often heard people in AA talk about us as being an anarchy. And, it is interesting that AA is not a top-down organization, that the individual and the group is all powerful, and nobody can tell a group what to do. Nobody can tell an individual what to do. In fact, we tell the General Service Office what to do. So in that respect, it's completely different. And it does seem kind of strange. It does seem like it's kind of unorganized when everybody has that kind of freedom. But when you actually get into the service structure and you see how people work together, it really isn't that way at all. Those who look closely soon have the key to this strange paradox. The AA member has to conform to the principles of recovery. Well, this might be debatable for amongst some of us. The AA member has to conform to the principles of recovery. Well, his life actually depends upon obedience to spiritual principles. If he deviates too far, the penalty is sure and swift. He sickens and dies. At first, he goes along because he must, but later he discovers a way of life he really wants to live. Moreover, he finds he cannot keep this priceless gift unless he gives it away. Neither he nor anybody else can survive unless he carries the AA message. The moment his 12th step work forms a group, another discovery is made that most individuals cannot recover unless there is a group. Realization dawns that he is but a small part of a great whole, that no personal sacrifice is too great for preservation of the fellowship. He learns that the clamor of desires and ambitions within him must be silenced whenever these could damage the group. It becomes plain that the group must survive or the individual will not. So, from my perspective, and I think others will agree with me, at least within the secular community of AA, from my perspective, one does not have to conform to the spiritual principles. I think that the path that we walk in AA is as unique for each of us as our fingerprint is. I mean, we all come here with some common problems, no doubt about it. And a lot of us will find a similar path, but we all understand it a little bit differently. So there really isn't any way to conform to the principles when the principles are really based upon experiences, and those experiences are unique for each individual. And how those are expressed is up to each individual. So that's how I see that anyway. Now I could look to I would look at it this way. This is how I would see it: is that for me, what's important for my recovery and what has always been important for my sobriety has been my the community of people that I have around me, the support of those who want me to be sober, who support my desire to stop drinking. That is what helps me. And I guess for me, especially in the beginning, as long as I realized that I needed help and I believed that these people could help me, as long as I conform to those principles, I suppose I would be okay. And then so in that sense, I can see it. So I guess it's just words. I guess I would word it a little bit different than Bill did here in Tradition One. So I can't really say that I disagree with Bill on any of this that I've read so far. So at the outset, how best to live and work together as groups became the prime question. How best to live and work together as groups? In the world about us, we saw personalities destroying whole peoples. The struggle for wealth, power, and prestige was tearing humanity apart as never before. If strong people were stalemated in the search for peace and harmony, what was to become of our erratic band of alcoholics? As we had once struggled and prayed for individual recovery, just so earnestly did we commence to quest for the principles through which AA itself might survive. On anvils of experience, the structure of our society was hammered out. So yeah, the traditions, again, this is just telling you that as an introduction to the traditions, that these are based upon experience. And I guess that's true. Bill Wilson, when he's writing these out, he was writing it based upon what they learned from the 1930s to 1950 something, whenever he was writing this. Now, this next paragraph, believe it or not, I never understood it. I never really understood the reference. I guess I knew that Eddie Rickenbacker was a pilot in World War One, but I didn't know about his crash in the Pacific. And until tonight, I never even bothered to look into it. So whenever I read this paragraph in the past, it just went over me. And quite frankly, after I learned about what happened with Eddie Rickenbacker, it still kind of goes, and whatever. But this was important. This was something that was in the news at the time. We'll go. Let me read the paragraph, and we'll talk about what happened with Eddie Rickenbacker. Countless times in as many cities and hamlets, we reenacted the story of Eddie Rickenbacker and his courageous company when their plane crashed in the Pacific. Oh. Like us, they had suddenly found themselves saved from death, but still floating upon a perilous sea. How well they saw that their common welfare came first. None might become selfish of water or bread. Each needed to consider the others, and in abiding faith, they knew they must find their real strength. And in this they did find, and measure to transcend all the defects of their frail craft, every test of uncertainty, pain, fear, and despair, and even the death of one. So what happened is Eddie Rickenbacker and about 7 others were on a plane that crashed in the Pacific Ocean. They were on a raft without any really very much provisions at all, and and they were adrift at sea. And one of the people died because he was so thirsty, he ended up drinking ocean water, salt water, and of course that just doesn't help. So he died. But they all hung in together. They all, felt that for them all to survive, they all needed to be united and they needed to distribute the food and everything. So they all pulled together and they were able to make it. So I guess I can draw from that little story that, like alcoholics, we come together at a time when we're in peril. At least I was in peril, and there were a few other people in the room with me that were in peril, but the others have already gotten through their peril. But we all kind of stick together and help those of us who are needing the help. So, but then again, when I read this, I was thinking, you know what? What if, I think, wasn't there a movie like this? Maybe not, but what if one guy just threw everyone else out the raft and he had all the provisions for himself and he just said that everybody else just died, maybe he would have, it would have helped his survival. I don't know. Anyway, that's a bad way to think about it, but I kind of get what they're saying, but I never knew anything about Eddie Rickenbacker. Okay. Enough said. Thus has it been with AA. By faith and by works, we have been able to build upon the lessons of an incredible experience. They live today in the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, which, God willing, shall sustain us in unity for as long as He may need us. So, yeah, that's kind of, I think it's kind of, just keeping it simple, like I said before, the way I see it. Now, this is up for every person, I guess, to see it in their own way, and maybe I can learn from you if you can point out something that maybe I'm getting wrong. But the way I understand this is that yes, we're free to work the program however we want to. We have all kinds of freedom in AA, but we need to consider about how our actions would impact the group as a whole. And where it's important for us to be united is in our desire to help others. And when we all come together from different groups, from different parts of our communities, and from different parts of the country, from different parts of the world, maybe, we all have to kind of put aside our personal egos to work for the common good of AA. And by doing that, the individual groups and the individuals themselves have a better chance at staying sober and finding recovery. So that's how I see tradition one. And that's it for this tradition. So I don't know how often I'll be doing this, if it's going to be a weekly thing or a monthly thing or every other week thing. I don't know. But I want to give something a little extra to patrons and members of the YouTube channel who are supporting AA Beyond Belief financially, because it truly helps. I'm really very grateful. And it's about high time that I start giving back to you who are giving to AA Beyond Belief. So thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Bye-bye.